Okay, so I've gone ahead and added in a little bit more detail, just a couple of doors and things, but I'll show you how to draw at least one more of these doors, because the double doors there do take a little bit of working out. And so, just thinking about the door size to begin with, you've got a I think 920 door is what they've said for the external doors, so we'll stick with that, even though it's a big size for a double door. And so, again, thinking about centering within this wall, centering the opening, I'm going to draw a line from the midpoint on the inside, because that's where we want to center it, and then perpendicular to the line above. And then I'll offset that line 920 for the door, and then another 40mm for the door jamb, so that's going to be 960. Okay, so either side of that line I'm going to offset a line each way, and now I can use trim, and I'll just press enter and then choose all the things I want trimmed. Okay, and so then you can see the doors are actually drawn with the jamb set back from the wall, which means, unlike the other door jambs, you can't just line it up with the size of the wall. They're 110, even though the door jamb probably would be 100 on those walls as well. We can leave it at 110 for those because it's close enough to the size. But for the door here, we need to draw the door jamb at its real size, which should be 100mm. So I'm going to go from the midpoint across to the other side, so the midpoint on the opening of the wall now. And I'm going to offset this line 50mm above and below, so that I end up with 100mm altogether. And now I'll offset again 40mm from my wall. So then again I'll use trim. This time I will choose the cutting edges so it's a bit clearer, and choose the bits I don't want. And then I'll just get all of these lines onto the door layer. Okay, so then I don't need that line anymore. And so now I can draw my doors. So just with the, I'll use the rectangle tool here, because I'll draw the door thickness this time. So from the corner where my hinge would be, I'll come up at 40mm for the door, comma 920 for the door size, door width. I'll use copy to copy that rectangle over to the other side. So I'll pick it up on this corner on the right, and then snap that onto the corner of the jamb where the hinge would be. And now I'll use the arc tool, again with start center end, to draw from the corner on the back of the door. So if you've drawn the door thickness, always remember the door swing goes to the back of the door, not to the front, always the back. And then the centre of the door swing is where the hinge would be, so again on the corner of the door jamb and the door. And then the door swing should finish across where my centre line is. Okay, so now to save me drawing that again, I'll use mirror. So I'm going to click on that first, and I'll click the mirror button. And then I'm just going to click a point on the axis line that I've left there as my first point in the mirror line. And then I'll click a second point above. And the new object should vanish because it'll ask me, do I want to delete the source objects? That's my source object, and I want to keep that, so I'm going to press enter, which is the same as typing no. And that'll keep the original. So I've finished with that line, now I can delete it, and that's my door. So we'll need a line for the door threshold as well, so I'll just draw a line across. And to make that a bit neater, it's a good idea to trim. Again, just where the doors cross the threshold. Okay, so there we are, so that's enough for those doors. And then the line weights will make a big difference to that though, because the line weight for the door jamb and the door should be heavier than for that threshold line there. That should be a nice light line. Okay, so then once you get to a point where you've established a lot of those the main elements, you could start projecting your elevations. So I just want to give you an idea about that, and also how you're going to start setting up your symbols, and especially your text to, again, help you locate and project those elevations. And so I want some text here that's going to indicate all of those things. And the first thing you need to think about when you start looking at doing some text is your scale. Okay, because think about it, your text has a size. Okay, and that size is dependent on your scale. So here you'll see this scale button actually gives you a hint there. Annotation scale is what it's called. So there, try to remember that when you're working with text. Try to think about your scale first. So 1 to 50 is the scale I want for my plan in the end. So I've got to choose that first. If you forget that one step, it'll mess up everything afterwards. So you can fix it, but it's a lot easier to get it right at the beginning. So now I can go to my text style, which is in the text panel. So you need drafting annotation for this. And then you'll see in the panel under text, you've got the, under annotation, sorry, you've got the text style, which has a little button next to it where you can edit your text style. If you go there, you'll see there is an annotated style already there, which you can just choose set current, and while we're at it, we'll just nominate a standard text type. So I'm going to say 3.5 is our standard height for the main text. That's it. So I can hit apply and then close. And now I'm ready to draw text. So I'll start with single line text under the text drop down, single line text, and then I want the dishwasher up here, so I'm just going to click a point for my text. You have to give a rotation angles, it'll always ask you for that, so just remember if you want to keep it straight or at 0 degrees, just press enter, and then you can type your text, DW, nothing special. Enter, moves down to the next line, so you've got to hit enter again to finish typing. Pick your text up and move it. It's simple, you can just click on it, and then with that blue handle you can highlight the text. I've got ortho on there, so I'll turn ortho off, and I can then just place that anywhere. So text is really important. I can't emphasise that to you enough, because it describes everything. You know what the lines are, but most other people looking at it won't. Now that sink, that has got to be one of the worst locations for a sink I've ever seen. So I'm going to leave that out. I can't bring myself to even draw that. I'm going to draw it in a different way. So I'm going to move on to the kitchen. And I've done a lot of kitchens, and I'm a bit obsessive about them too. So that's it. So I'm going to do some different text though, and so I just want to show you multi-line text, which is a bit different. So single line text, which is great for single individual little notes, but multi-line text is better for multiple lines, and also text where you want a bit more formatting. So with multi-line, you click a rectangle. So I'm going to click 2 points there, and then you'll see it'll give you a formatting bar that you don't get with single line. Okay, so up there you can see there's the text type I gave earlier, 3.5, and it can be good to do single line text first, just to get that in there. But I want to change this to 5mm now. I want this to be larger. And then I can just type in my text, enter, and so notice we can do things like justification here that we couldn't do with single line. It's just like Word if you've used any program that does text. Okay, so that I can also have set to center, and we can change the text box height and all those other things. Okay, very good. It's recording. That's horrible. Okay, so that's basically done. And with this sort of text, you don't need to hit enter to finish it. Just click to one side, and that takes you out of it. So it's up to you if you want to break the line, but that's all I'll do for my kitchen for now. And then just to finish that area off, I've got the text that I can hatch around. So I'm going to put the text onto a layer that I'll make for my annotation. I like to keep that layer white. Black and white are the same colour in AutoCAD, so either white or black depending on your background. And put the text onto that layer. I'll just do a quick recap on the hatch tool while I'm at it. So on my tile layer, I'll draw a line. Again, I'm going to change this a bit. I'm going to do it on the side I think it should be, which is the left. And then doing a hatch. So remember, with the pattern, you can choose any of those preloaded patterns, but you need to know the size. If you use user defined, you can put in a scale, your own size in other words. So here, 150 with double is a pretty good size for this bathroom hatching. So for the kitchen tile hatching. So I'm just going to click a point for each of those areas, and that's got it. So enter gives me the hatch, and that'll do for now. I can always still adjust the text if I want, and the hatch should move with it. So you can see there, it's no problem usually to move things after you've done the hatching. If you want to change the size, I might just go in there to show you that's maybe a little large. 5mm is standard, but because this room's a bit smaller, we can try 4. There we go. So that maybe is a bit of size, I think. And again, the hatching will keep updating automatically. It should. Okay, so I've got enough for the set out now of the internal elevations. So you've got a part of the kitchen there where you can project, and I'm going to draw a line for that using, to begin with, just my wall layer. And I'm going to draw from the corner here, just straight up. So I need ortho 1 for that, and I'm just going to come straight up, a pretty rough distance. And I'll draw another line on the other inside corner there, again coming up roughly the same amount. So I'll need to make a new layer now, which I'll call X floor. Make it a different colour. And I'm going to start using some non-standard colours now, just so that it's similar to the wall colour. I don't want it to stand out too much. Make it the current layer. So I'm going to draw a line again that's at a pretty rough distance. So there's no exact measurement for this. I'm just drawing it coming across so that again it's straight. So with ortho on, it'll be kept straight, and that's the most important thing. So then with fillet, I can join those lines together. Right, so essentially I've just projected the width. You could, if you know the size of the room, just offset, but you'll see in a moment why it's really important to project from your different drawings, also the different parts of your plan. So then with the the ceiling height there. So does anyone know the ceiling height off the top of their head in the room? Probably about 3 metres. That sound right? I'm going to say it's about 3 metres anyway, if you can't find it. You can always change it. It'll be probably, No, okay, you weren't given it. All right, so that's a bit. That's just been left out. So we'll say 3 metres. That's pretty standard. So I'm going to assume 3 metres for the ceiling height. You might need to change that later, but it's an easy thing to change. So I'm going to make that 3,000 for my offset distance. And then again, using fillet, I can tidy those up. Okay, now, have you done, I know you've done a little bit with cross sections in visual communication, but have you done them with the construction shown, or have you just been showing solid walls when you're cutting through things in your plan? Solid walls, yep. Yeah. And then have you been doing internal elevations with the heavy... Oh, you have done them. Oh, good, okay, so...
We're just starting to do sections now, well, we've been doing it for a couple of weeks.
Oh, good, good. Okay, yeah. So you're pretty familiar with projecting and basic ideas. So this is the same as when you project on a drawing board. You just project in the same direction, even though the drawing's off to one side. So here, it's just above, and I can then, with the kitchen bench there, I'll just go to the built-in layer I've been using. I'll make maybe a kitchen cabinet layer, but for now, just draw a line on that layer, coming up from where the kitchen bench corner should be. So, do you notice that your standard bench height? Yeah, exactly, 900, that's right. So, some people have some different ideas about that. You get some people who think they're extra tall, who want to do 950, and you get people who think they're short, who want to do 8 something. It's ridiculous, and I'm maybe a tiny bit above average height. I get a sore back when I chop on those non-standard bench heights. So so it's good to remember that one, 900. Pretty much everyone's just gotten used to it, and all the appliances, everything's 900. But there was a bit of a push a little while ago for some non-standard heights. But 900, that's the one to remember. Other things aren't so set in stone, like benches, like seats that you sit on, those sort of benches. Okay, so all I've done there is offset 900 from the floor. So you can see there I've drawn a line for the floor. This is the line for the corner of the bench, remember, not the corner of the cabinet. So, this is the top of the bench though. So if I offset from there, do you know your bench thickness, standard bench thickness? Oh yeah, for the deck thickness, the actual board that goes on top. It does vary because they're all different materials you can use, but there are some standard sizes. Yeah, it's about that size, yep. Similar to a door, 40mm is pretty standard. And it's in reality, it's a bit less than that if it's a laminate type material with the border, but 40mm, that's fine. So I've got an outline there. If I use trim, I'll just use this line or these 2 lines from the bench to trim this other line. So that little line there is the one I've projected from the plan. And then just think about what's happening underneath. You'd have the door set back from that edge. So, again, if you think about those standard sizes, if you're not sure, you can just assume and then work it out properly later. So if you offset, well, let's say 50mm from the edge of the bench there, back, that should be where the door starts, or where the cabinet starts. The door would sit on the face of that. Now, I want to bring that line down, so if you haven't used extend yet, that's very similar to trim. With extend, you simply choose an edge that you want things to go to, enter, and then you choose the things you want to extend. Trim, move right next to it, and I can trim there. So that's the front of my cabinet. And then the door would sit on the face of that, so we can offset from there if we're going to show the door. We probably would, because this is, we would, it's internal elevations, that's all right. We can show the cabinets being cut through. But I'll leave that for now and do the bottom. So with offset again, you've got a kickboard at the bottom usually. So, standard kickboard height? 10? Well, 10 exactly, it is 10. Yep, 100mm. Okay, so coming up from the ground. And then it's again going to be set back this way. And so 50mm again is what I'll assume there. So with fillet here, I could get the corner, so that should be the front corner of my cabinet, and then trim so I can start to see now what the cabinet's going to look like. And then if we're going to do the internal board thicknesses, just get this all onto the right layer. So offset, again this time we've got a different board thickness. So you can assume 20mm. In reality that's 18mm and sizes like that, but we'll assume 20 for the board thickness. So coming up from the, so if you imagine the way this was built, the kickboard would be sitting underneath, and then the base of the cabinet would sit on top of that, and that would be where the 100mm starts. So you go up from there to draw the board in. You could draw the back as well, so, well you really should. So we'll put in 20mm from there, just for the, oh no, for the whole thing, that's alright. Even though you break it here, so this, you could build it, yeah, you could definitely do it like that. I mean, you probably have that all filled in anyway, so you might not need all of it shown, but again, I can just come across 20mm from the front, and that's my door sitting on the face. You could draw the shelving inside if you really want to, but that's optional. And so then you're left with this area here where you'd see the doors from the those cabinets. So I'm going to make another layer. Oops. So I've gone into my layer manager again to make a new layer called X cabinet. I'll call it built-in, so I'll stick with that for now. Yeah, let's call it built-in. Projection. So I was going to put PROJ for that. So when something's in projection, it's really important to separate it from things that are being cut. So part of this cabinet's being cut, part's not. And so I'm going to give it just a different colour for now. The line weight, I'll set it for now, but I want to check that. So I'll just make it a lighter line weight. And I'll make this the current layer. And then I'll draw a line across. So that would be the bottom of the doors that I see in elevation. I can check this distance now. And you can see I've got 1230 there. Right, so when you're designing kitchens and other things like this, you need to think about how those doors are going to be divided up. So that's pretty close to 400, being in increments of 400. And so you could assume that and maybe just add the 30mm to one of the doors. And that would probably make sense, especially if you've got a corner cupboard here. Right, so just got to think about something that's going to be logical. And so if I offset 400, that's a good door size, 400, 450, things like that. Okay, so again I'll put that onto my new projection layer. Using these two, I'll do trim again, using these two lines this time. And then I'll just keep going with offset, still with the 400. And I don't need that last one because that would be the door that goes all the way to the corner, hopefully. And then one of those, folding doors. So that might make sense. Otherwise, you could divide up in another way. So you could then even go as far as showing the handles, but you might leave them out to begin with while you're getting your sizes right. And then remember also, you're going to have the window visible in that elevation. So you need to, again, work out those heights. And the heights for a kitchen window are often quite different to, say, for a bedroom window, because they need to factor in the bench height. So, so again, this window should be centred within the wall. That's a fairly quick and easy thing to draw. Okay, so starting again with a line in the centre, we're going to assume this window is 1 metre wide. Okay, so I'm just using trim there to quickly get those lines taken away. and then getting the lines for the window. So nothing special here, just using the line tool to quickly draw some lines. And then I'll put the window sill in though, because you should have an idea about that. So it's only, looks like a 20mm sill. And that's still a good thing to have though. Okay, so I've got the window drawn in plan, which will help to do the elevation, but I better trim that last line just to make that a bit neater. There we are. Okay, so now with the, again, just the line tool, on the wall layer to begin with, I'll draw a line from the corner of the wall. And maybe, sorry, just to make that a bit clearer, I'll put these lines onto the right layer, which is the wall layer. So then you can see, I know it's a bit hard with that blue, but I might just change that to a lighter blue. There we go. So I'll draw a line again from the corner of the wall, not the corner of the window. That's really important, that you're again setting out the sizes in the right way. Just straight up, so that it stays straight. And then another line again from the opposite corner. Straight up. And then I'll use offset. And so here, again, you need to think about the sill height in relation to the kitchen. So something that would make sense with this kitchen bench. And just think about what would happen in the kitchen if you had the window too close to the bench. It's not very practical. It might make sense in some cases as a design decision. There would be cases where it would work. But in this case, I think it would be, much more sensible to have the sill above the bench height. And it gives people room for things, and also for moisture and all those other things. It's a good idea. So 1200 would be a good height for this window sill. So again, from the floor, we're going to offset above. Could be even lower. I mean, you could take it a metre. It's yeah. Really in two minds about this one. Yeah, maybe we'll do 1100 because that's a good compromise. Because really it would be the outside elevation that would affect this as well, but we're only looking at the inside. We'll say 1100. So then the head height. So we'll assume a fairly standard head height here, which is not the same as your standard door height. A common mistake people make, and I've seen it in huge buildings even, where you just think, how are these people ever taught about design? They do the same head height for the windows and the doors. It just looks awful. It's ugly, anyhow. So don't do that. It's really ugly and awful, and just shows no design. So 2100, that's the standard height for door heads. And have a look around you at a lot of ugly old new buildings. They'll often line the windows up at 2100 as well. But look at some older, nicer deco buildings, and it varies.
Not floor to ceiling, it's just the back here.
Oh no, you can do that as well. Yeah. But I'm thinking more about how this looks from the outside. It's much nicer usually if you break it up, not having everything even. It looks like a grid and too, blocky. But when you break it up and have that nice articulation, that's when things start to look nice. And that's just my personal belief, but it's something that a lot of designers think. So 2400 I'll use for my head height here, and it may even be higher. And so there I've got these two lines which should also be on the wall layer. I'll use fillet then and join them together. 2100. Yeah. Okay, so that's a nice decent window for that wall. See, in plan it looks pretty tight. Well, I've drawn it bigger. I think in this plan you've been given it's drawn a bit smaller than I have, but nothing wrong with generous windows. And then the developers won't like you because they cost a fortune, but people living there will.
Actually, it says 1,000 on the...
Yeah. So we'll keep, Oh, they have set 1,000 for the kitchen, did they? Oh, good, good. Yep. Yeah, definitely it's smaller than that on this drawing, but that's good if it's bigger. Okay, so I'm just putting these lines onto the window layer for now. That'll do. Okay, so you've just been given a drawing of a fixed window in plan. It's not shown opening in any direction, so for now that'd be okay if you just leave it as drawn as a fixed window like that, which means essentially you've got the frame going around the outside and not much else. So that's a good starting point for the first elevation. Then maybe just to get you thinking about the others, I know we've got to finish in a minute, but the little compass wheel you've seen in the top right corner, notice you've got the arrows next to that in the top right, very top right. They let you rotate the drawing around. So think about how you flip your plan when you're drawing on your drawing board, project the different elevations. That is exactly the same in AutoCAD. So anyhow, I better finish that video so you can get it.